and welcome back to Greenhill Today. I'm Lane Herbert.
And I'm Tej Stingra. We're going to have two segments for you today. First, we have a special feature on the 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip, which they came back from last week.
Then we will have the high school robotics team and their recent win at the first Tech Challenge qualifier at Rice Middle School.
So let's go to news.
Each year, 8th grade students take a trip to Washington, D.C. as a class. During this trip, the students explore D.C.'s famous Smithsonian museums, meet with government officials, attend seminars, sightsee at national monuments, and participate in political activities like mock trials.
The students this year spent 4 days and 3 nights in D.C., giving them plenty of time to experience the city. On one evening, the last night of the trip, the 8th graders split up into their respective advisories for the last advisory dinner.
So here's 8th grader Ravi Vasan on his advisory dinner.
My favorite part of the trip was probably our advisory dinner and spending time with our advisory, because it was a real time for us to bond together, because it's still kind of the beginning of the year. I mean, in 8th grade we only have 15 minutes of advisory a day, so a dinner is a lot more time to just hang out and talk to each other, especially with our advisor too. So that's a lot more fun than just the 15 minutes we have during advisory. And I was telling my advisor that we should request an advisory day where we can do more things with our advisory.
In addition to Ravi, some other 8th graders shared their experiences with us about the DC trip.
In the past, I had always really been bored at museums, and I had never really paid attention in them. But we went to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and its exhibits captivated me and moved me in a way I'd never felt before at a museum. I want to say my favorite part of the whole trip was either the Washington Monument or the Lincoln Memorial, because those were the most fun, but I think the liberal versus conservative debate was my favorite part. Everybody got to ask any question about any topic and see two different sides on that question, and everyone got to voice their own opinion, raising a green or red card, green if you agree, red if you don't, and it really opened my mind up to other people's opinions, because I've always only thought about my own.
My favorite part of the DC trip was probably the museum. It was really interesting to see that. They had this really amazing 9/11 exhibit. We saw this video of journalists who risked their lives to go photograph and record 9/11. And there's even a story of a firefighter who was in his home safely, and he went out to go photograph 9/11 and he died doing it. And it was really awful, and it makes you see how important these journalists are to your daily life and just everything. And it's, where would we be without journalism? You know, we would never know what's going on. I think the purpose of this trip was really to experience the world and learn about it, like, in person. You know, at school we're always sitting in desks and learning about things, but this trip was an opportunity to actually experience everything and learn about it like that.
So I think it's really important to remember that this trip is a gift from the school. It is the only all-grade airline trip that we take at Greenhill. I know it's expensive. I think that the lasting implications of taking a trip to DC together, you just can't really measure those.
On November 9th, the high school robotics team, Team Viridian, participated in their first competition of the year. The team attended the North Texas First Tech Challenge qualifier, which was held at Rice Middle School in Plano, Texas.
At the tournament, Team Viridian won the Inspire Award. The Inspire Award is granted to teams who meet certain criteria that focus primarily on the inclusivity and positivity of the team as a whole.
So we got a chance to talk to a team member of Team Viridian to hear their insights on how they think the team performed in the challenge, and then we also got to talk to the coach, Ms. Suarez, on how she thinks the team performed and where they're going to go in the future.
So let's go to the interview.
During the actual competition phase, we have to have two drivers controlling the robot. I think they did a really, really good job together. So Christopher Dykes and Matthew Cole, they were our drivers this year, and they worked really, really well together along with our coach, Luke Contreras, to make a effective game plan that put points on the board and made an effective use of our robot. Building off of the success that we had at this past tournament, we're moving to a newer design that's going to use the good elements of our old robot, and we're going to improve upon the ones that we didn't think were as good. And so we're going to a new driving base. We're going to go to a new grabbing system for one of the main gameplay elements. But we're going to keep some of the main functionality on the robot that we felt worked really, really well.
I think we had a very good beginning of the season. I think they worked very hard at the beginning to get the robot working. I always ask them to build something that is very interesting and unique. And if you sell that to the judges, that's when you get that Inspire prize. Inspire for me is the most important prize, award that you can earn in this competition. So if you aim to that award, then and you're successful, is the best feeling, because you know that the judges recognize all the engineering process that went to it. I appreciate that now, they are being noticed and people cares of what's happening in the robotics room. Finally, the school is supporting us. I think that we are getting that support. I mean, the fact that you are interviewing us today is, for me, a great deal.
All right, that's all we have for today's episode.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another week of Greenhill Today
And we'll see you next time
on Greenhill Today.